What's going on YouTube? Magnus here, back with another video for you guys. Today we're making a leather shoulder satchel, which on a technical level is by far my best pattern to date. Remember, you can get all my patterns and artwork on my website, link in the description down below, or you can get it on my Patreon on a month-to-month basis, which is a really good deal. A link in the description down below. So let's get started. As usual, this video is sponsored by Lonsdale Leather. Make sure you check out the link in the description down below for tools, supplies, and of course, leather. This pattern certainly has a lot of pages, but it's really straightforward to just cut straight lines, tape them all together, and then you just have to loosely cut around the edge because we're going to be taping the pattern directly to your leather so we get perfect hole placement on all those stitching holes. The reason we're not cutting exactly along the line on this pattern is because we want to have space to tape it down and then cut through that line perfectly as we cut our pattern out. I'm pretty sure you guys get the idea now. We don't need to show every single moment of this whole pattern being cut out. Cut everything out. It's pretty straightforward. Some of these little pieces you're not going to tape down. You're going to do a strap cutter and then cut them out, but it's not a big deal. I'm just using some masking tape that I can see through here. I may try and see if there is a masking tape that has even less stick than this. It was pretty good though. It had a little tiny bit of residue that I had to wipe off, but not a big deal. In case you missed it, this is a 00 1/16 inch craft tool punch, and there are many holes. I do have a lot of decorative stitching on this bag. Now, you don't have to do all that decorative stitching, but I just think it adds a nice touch to the bag overall. Now, I always strop my blades before I use them, even if they're brand new, but you really want to make sure your knife is super sharp because you don't want it pulling at the paper or tape. You want it to cut perfectly through everything so you have that exact perfect pattern cut out. I may be overthinking it, but that's what I do. Here I'm just using my awl to mark out my shoulder strap bits. You'll have to adjust it to whatever size you want it to be for yourself or whoever it's for. As an example for you guys, I'm 6'4" and my overall strap length, just the tongue side before I riveted it onto the D-ring on the bag itself, was 54 inches. That said, I haven't cut it to length yet because I'm going to make sure everything fits nicely and mark it when it's on me and then cut it and punch the holes for it. Wherever your bag joins together, like right here, you're not beveling that side. So this is the top opening of the bag, so I bevel both sides. But on the rest of it, I'm just beveling the top. Same goes for this part. You're beveling the top of the bag and the opening, but not the back side. Now, if there's nothing getting stitched together, you're obviously beveling both sides. Black Tokenol. Love it. This is the first time I've started using it. I'm playing with not dyeing my edge and just using the Tokenol, and it seems to work fine. Now you just need to slick your edges with a hand slicker or your slicker of choice. There's a lot of different ones. There's motorized ones. I'm using this one right here. The Tokenol makes it really easy. LONSDALE Leather just recently started carrying Tokenol, and they've got brown, black, and clear, so make sure you check that out. Now, part of the edge slicking can't be done until the pieces are stitched together, because sometimes when you're edge slicking, part of the process is making those two pieces that have been stitched together look like one piece, or at least close to that as possible, kind of making that separation disappear. Here I've just realized that I've added stitching holes to the front piece that is for the back piece. I'll fix it before I release the pattern here, but now it's just going to be a decorative stitch. So here is our final product for our decorative stitching. Most people use 2 needles, go back and forth. When you do that, you have an ability to lock your stitch at the center, kind of like tying your shoes. For this project, I don't do that. I just do a running stitch all the way down to the other end and then all the way back. And I'm probably going to get a lot of grief for that. There's a few things that can go wrong when you do that. One, depending on how you are going through your holes, your stitches can look a little wonky. Like, you should make sure that you are trying to push through on the same side on each stitch when you go back the other way. It's hard for me to explain off the top of my head here, but when you're pushing through the hole, you are putting your needle on one side of the thread or the other when you're coming back the other way. So it should always be trying to be on the same side every single stitch, which will mean your stitches all look the same. And you should also obviously try and make sure you don't stitch through your thread, which can be a whole different issue. Now when I'm done all that, I hit it with a heat gun. Not really a necessary step, but it just cleans up the wax that's been kind of pushed around and looks a little weird, depending on how waxy your thread is. That is, this thread I'm using is pretty waxy. So that is all of our decorative stitching done. Now we have to put everything together. Here I notice that I've put the holes in the wrong spot. I've got holes on the little gusset that doesn't attach to anything but the front of the pouch, and no holes on the big gusset, which is for the shoulder strap. At least I get to figure this out and not you guys. So I just throw some rivets in the little one as a feature. They're feature rivets. They're decorative. If anybody asks, they're, you know, I just like rivets. Just throw them on there. They don't do anything. And then we've got our main strap ready for our shoulder strap. So, yeah, lovely decorative rivets. I love these black rivets from LONSDALE, but I feel like to get them to set 100% perfectly every time, I need to use some kind of press. So I use my kick press here. You can certainly use a hammer or hammer and setter, but I just feel that these rivets are so strong that to get them to set perfectly every single time, I want to use a press. So I just use my kick press. I love that thing. There's no rocket science going on with this keeper. I loop the thread through a bunch, tie a knot, then turn it inside out, cut the threads, and burn them off. And that way you've got yourself a little stitched keeper, and you're ready to put it on the buckle part of this project. Or one of the buckle parts. There's two buckle parts. Another rivet tip is make sure your post is not sticking out too far on the other side. You just want it through a little bit. So if you're having trouble setting rivets and they're going all wonky, your post is probably way too far the other side. Just a little heads up. So we're going to rivet all these pieces down, and then we are going to get ready to do our final assembly, which is a lot of stitching. What's going on, everybody? Sorry to interrupt the video. Hopefully you're enjoying it. I thought I would take this time to introduce you to another sponsor. I know, it's pretty exciting news. I know what you're thinking. Audible. Not Audible. It's not Audible at all. So obviously, Squarespace. No, I haven't been on Squarespace in a year. I'm on Shopify. No, it's not Shopify either. The new sponsor is me. I'm the new sponsor. So if you didn't know, I designed t-shirts with some of my artwork on them. This is an older one, nice owl that I did. If you need t-shirts and you're not a leather worker, or if you need t-shirts and you are a leather worker, let's just say if you need t-shirts, I've got t-shirts, and you want to help support the channel, check the link in the description down below for my shirt designs. Pick one up. That helps support the channel. I love it. Thank you very much. Let's get back to the video. My stitching pony is pretty small, so really I don't use it for most of this project. I used it here at the beginning thinking that it would be super useful. It wasn't very useful. I just ended up stitching off the edge of my table in the end, and that was just fine. Since I'm just doing this running stitch all the way down and back, it worked fine. So I'm starting a little bit already into the project. I go up to the top, I loop over the end to help stop it from ripping open, and then I come back down all the way to one end, all the way back, back stitch again. There's no knots or anything, just burn the threads, you're good to go. Now I've dyed this edge because I just wanted to make sure it got as black as possible. Because the edges are pressed together, I wanted to make sure the dye got in there. Then I hit it with Tokonol and slick it up. You can see that there's a join there, obviously, but that's at super zoom, so whatever. I then realized that I wanted to bevel just a little bit the other side of this gusset for the front pouch. I think it would just look nicer after burnishing it, so I did that. I wasn't sure if I should do it, but whatever. That's what I did. Now, when you're mounting the front pouch on, remember that there is an overlap hole right here, see? So don't line those holes up perfectly, because they do not line up perfectly. The main body of the bag has 2 extra holes that the little gusset does not. So you can do what I'm doing here, which is go over the top edge, which will really lock everything in place and stop it from ripping away easily. Well, it's not going to rip away easily anyways, but it just gives that extra security. Before we stitch the main gusset onto the body of the pouch, we're putting on the D-rings. Nothing's changed here. We're stitching up to the edge, over the edge to lock it down, all the way down and around to the other side, over the edge, all the way back, while making sure that our stitches are, for the most part, being put through on the same side of the thread every time. Here's the start of me joining the top flap of the bag to the back. Same idea, we're going to stitch off and around to lock that area down, go all the way down to the end, off the edge, around, all the way back. Same thing. This is us finishing the gusset. We've gone all the way around. We are going to lock it down again, which means we're kind of going up through the flap part of the bag because it's already stitched on, down and back through our gusset, all the way around to the end, burn off the threads. Here I've decided that this handle is way too big. So I rip it off and I make a new handle. I'm not going to show you that process, but just goes to show you that you can be in the middle of making something and it's already done and you change direction anyways and make something better. More dye and Tokonol, more burnishing on this back edge, make everything nice and slick. We have to make a keeper. I'm just showing you another way of putting together keepers, which is with a stapler. You really got to pick which ones you want to do this with. Stitching is better, but not as fast. I just thought I would show you guys that you can use a little tiny mini stapler to make a keeper. I somehow missed this last little part of the build where I cut the strap and punched the holes for it, but really I just put the bag on. The strap's extra long. I marked the hole that I like. I punched 5 holes, 2 on either side of that hole. I cut the strap to length and burnished the end. Make sure you hit the like button if you enjoyed this video, subscribe for future videos, hit the notification button so you don't miss any of my content, and until next time, keep on being creative in whatever it is you do. I've got t-shirts, people. Come check out my shop for t-shirts. Link in the description down below.